What's the worst cousin story you've ever heard? We were camping once, and my cousin walked off into the woods to smoke a joint and take a morning poop. He took a gun along to keep himself entertained. When he finished his joint and poo, he looked back at his pile and naturally decided to shoot it. He returned to the campsite covered in the shrapnel of his bad decision. Redditors who have actually won a lifetime supply of something, what was the supply you won, and how long did it actually last? I won free full-body massages for life, which basically just translates to 2 massages a week. It was really good. I got addicted. I knew everyone who worked there, and I got to experiment with all of them to see which were the best. Ended up fluctuating between 3 different staff towards the end. They would even train new staff on me for free because I spent so much time over there. Those training massages never cost me anything either or counted towards my 2 free massage a week limit. Have you ever listened to a person talk for less than a minute and known you weren't going to get along with that person? What did they say? New guy at work. First coffee break, he started complaining about his ex who had full custody of the kids for some unknowable reason, and also how he'd like to slash her throat with a rusty knife. Nice to meet you too. Don't think I'll be taking breaks with you. Richard Feynman said, "Never confuse education with intelligence. You can have a PhD and still be an idiot." What are some real-life examples of this? My wife's stepfather was a chemist who currently has diabetes. One night he went to the ER because his blood sugar was dangerously high. He claimed he was eating well, he normally doesn't, so there's no reason why his blood sugar was high. In his car was a 2-liter bottle of ginger ale mixed in with grape juice. He said that the 2 canceled their sugars out, and we didn't know what we were talking about because he was a chemist and he knows how to combine things. What's a company secret you can share now that you don't work there? They are out of business now, but in the early 90s, I worked at Radio Shack for a year and a half. When people would return an item because it didn't work, the manager of the store would just box it back up and sell it again as if it were new. When I asked him about it, he said, "Hopefully they will return it to a different store." I nearly got fired when I refused to sell a guy a walkie-talkie CB radio that I knew didn't work. The guy was on his way out for a hunting trip and was buying 3 of these for him and his friends. We had 2 and the third was the broken one. In front of the customer, I told the manager that 1 didn't work and I had tested it. The guy was happy, I told him. We arranged for him to get the last one he needed at a different store, and off he went. The manager was livid with me and nearly fired me. "I'm sorry, I'm not sending people out into the forest with gear. I know doesn't work." Hilariously, a few months later, the manager was caught stealing from the store and got fired. You're given $1,000 cash every day, but anytime you need to poop, you have to use a public restroom. Are you taking the 1K? Why or why not? Hell yes. I'll take that deal. In fact, you can make it a glass public restroom and y'all can come watch. Besides, if it can be any public restroom, I know a few stores that have some really clean ones. Not to mention because of health issues, I only poop 2 or so times a week, so let's do this. What actor or actress stupidly left a movie franchise or TV series thinking they were too good for it, only to be never popular again? Terrence Howard was in Iron Man 1 and was going to become War Machine. This was the very start of the Marvel movies, the MCU. He got bounced, I think, for asking for crazy money. Don Cheadle replaced him for Iron Man 2 and all the movies beyond. There is a Greek proverb, "A society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit in." What are the greatest examples of this in human history? Joseph Bazalgette was a Victorian engineer who masterminded London's modern sewer system in the 1860s. He foresaw the insane population growth, and when all the calculations were made on how big to bore the pipes underground, he essentially said, "Nah, let's double it." Now, infrastructure that would have been unable to cope in the 1960s is still in use today. What's a story where the bad guys are actually completely 100% right, to the point where it's weird the story keeps calling them the bad guys? Every single Donald Duck cartoon. Dude usually just wants to chill out without being bothered, and there's always someone bothering him, and then he gets blamed for standing up for his own needs. The older I get, the more I empathize with Donald Duck. What job position is 100% overvalued and overpaid? The one I had at my last office job. I was originally hired to be the manager of a new project, but the project was never launched, and I had a long-term contract. After 5 months of being paid by only clocking in and out without doing any actual work, someone saw me in the pool for available associates and invited me to join their project as a frontline agent. Apparently, at some moment, the database just marked me as an available employee without mentioning the rank I had been hired for. I stayed in the company for 6 years, getting paid the salary of a manager, but with the responsibilities of a regular agent. I rejected every offer for growth I had, as I was only working there to pay for a debt. In the end, I made my money with very little stress and left the company in great terms. What quietly went away without anyone noticing? Acid rain. It was a huge environmental issue in the late 70s through the early 90s. Rain was acidic and damaged fertile areas, among other things. In the U.S., there was much research done, and eventually industrial regulations were put into place. Companies were allowed to decide what approach they chose to take as long as the results showed the appropriate amount of reduction in sulfur dioxide emissions. Unfortunately, positive news doesn't sell, so news outlets did not do justice to reporting this success. As we went into the 2000s, hardly anyone remembered what was done. If you could place any object on the surface of Mars purely to confuse NASA scientists, what would it be? I'm a geologist, and I can confirm that just placing the wrong type of rock would officiate up science for like 30 years. I often pick up rocks that I know only occur in specific areas and leave them somewhere that would be naturally impossible in the hope that it will break a geochemist's mind when they find it. You get pushed into 2030 for 10 minutes and you get one Google search what you looking for. Looking up obituaries for terrible public figures, CEOs, politicians, hate group leaders, etc. Then upon return, anonymously creating a widely announced death note scenario where one of the tracked individuals has their death announced a day in advance for their heinous behavior. At first, it's a hoax, a joke, or several lucky guesses, but after enough accurate predictions, the doubt begins to creep in. The influential sleazes of the world begin to clean up their acts due to a quasi-mystical, unavoidable, and all-knowing threat of imminent doom. What screams, "I'm a bad parent"? IDK. If this really screams it, but I absolutely hate when adults tell other adults their children's shameful secrets for no reason. Even strangers. It tells me those children probably don't feel like they can trust their parents. What was ruined by rich people? Housing used to be the only people buying houses were those that were intending to live in them. Now you have rich people looking into investing in real estate. And guess what? Rich houses are poor investments. So rich people are buying up all the affordable housing, driving up the price and creating scarcity. What was once highly respected, that is now a complete joke. The Guinness Book of World Records. Once a well-established and professional collection of every impressive human feat, now a quick ego boost for rich kids that have barely enough talent to balance an egg on their forehead for 15 seconds on a July afternoon at exactly 11:55 a.m. while wearing a Hello Kitty onesie. Medical professionals of Reddit. Have you ever had a patient so lacking in common sense you wondered how they made it this far? If so, what is your story? I'm a vet. A few years ago, I had a client bring his young cat in complaining of lethargy. Besides being a bit underweight, the physical exam was unremarkable, so I asked more questions about the cat's diet. Me. What do you feed the cat? Owner. Online trendy raw food brand. Me. How is his appetite? Does he finish what you feed him? Owner. Yes, he always eats everything. Me. How much do you feed him? Owner. 1-2 cup. Me. Once or twice daily. Owner. Once every 3 or 4 days. Me. You only feed your cat twice a week? Owner. I believe in a more natural feeding approach, And based on my research, that's how often cats eat in the wild. This owner was slowly starving his cat to death based on some cockamamie idea he'd made up watching National Geographics. I had to explain to him that domestic cats are not tigers, and that small willed cats eat 10-20 small meals daily. Surprise, the cat's lethargy and weight improved with regular feeding.